Welcome to Things I Can't Say, the podcast for the things parents whisper, not post. I'm Annie, a parent who's walked through the quiet, lonely hallways of raising a child with traits that don't fit neatly into any of the parenting books, or on anyone's social media feed either. Each week we'll open the door to stories that rarely get told out loud. I'll start with mine, and then you'll hear from other parents, mental health professionals, and people who know what it means to live in the gray instead of the black and white. This is a place where shame loses its power, where complexity isn't feared but explored, and where love doesn't have to be easy in order to be real. If you've ever felt like no one else could possibly understand, you're not alone here. This is Things I Can't Say, and I am so glad you're here. Welcome back to an episode I'm having a really hard time recording because my brain is struggling with many of the thoughts in my head on this topic. I think when we become parents, we go into it with this idea that our main responsibility is to protect our children, to keep them safe, healthy, alive, protect them from the outside. Like that's our role, that's our job as parents. We're the protector. And when your job shifts from protecting your own child from the outside to protecting the outside from your child, it is a shift that other people cannot comprehend. If you have not lived it, there is no way to really help people understand it. And living it makes you feel a bit crazy because it is so outside of what is natural for a parent. That natural parenting thing is to protect your child, believe your child, keep your child safe. It is about your child. And when you take that part and set it aside and start protecting everyone else from your child, almost at the risk of your child, that messes with your head. It makes you feel like you're a little crazy. And it makes other people question your parenting and question what you're doing and why you're doing it, because that's not something they can imagine ever doing. It's not something I imagined ever having to do. I think our son was in 8th grade when I initially recognized that's where we were headed. We'd had other things happen up until that point that were yellow flags. I saw some signs that we were definitely headed that direction. But at the end of 8th grade, he had an accusation from a boy in his class of some inappropriate touch. And there was an investigation at school and a risk assessment done and big meetings, and he was suspended for the rest of the school year. It was a big deal. He denied it, as he does with every accusation. But I knew in that moment that we had a problem. That, on top of all of the yellow flags that had been waving real big in the sky, I knew that we had a problem. And I knew that that was the beginning of I needed to start protecting other people more than I needed to protect him. That was painful for me because I wanted to protect him. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to be on his side. I wanted to be his everything. And I had to change how I saw things and handled things and dealt with things. And it didn't feel good. I remember leaving the risk assessment meeting and wishing that the other staff that were there had been more bold in what they said. I know that they all saw the giant red flag that was waving, but I don't feel like they were willing to say what they were concerned about. They didn't say it. And I needed to hear it. I needed somebody else to say, we are concerned. We see what's coming and we are concerned. We moved not long after that and it was a quiet summer. But then we hit high school and it became so clear that that was going to become what I had to do And I didn't want him to feel like I wasn't protecting him. I wanted him to still have that relationship with me, so I felt like I was almost going behind his back all the time, trying to find ways to keep other people safe. Contacting other parents, checking his phone all the time, keeping an eye on everything. It it ate me up because there's not a way to do it. You can't keep an entire community safe from one person by yourself. I agree that parents should be the major consequence and the major discipline for their children. They should have that role, but without any other outside consequence or discipline, you can't do it on your own. You can't lock your child in a basement and keep everybody else safe. Your child is still going to leave the house. They're still going to go to school. Th- They're still going to have access to other people because you're not there all the time. With no one else backing you up, you can't keep people safe. Doesn't matter if you go to the school and tell them your concerns. It doesn't matter if you, it doesn't matter because I did all the things. I took the text messages in and requested a risk assessment and showed them his phone and said, I need you to look at all of these things and make sure these kids are safe. I went and sat with the community people, these leaders in the community. There was like the school superintendent and the caseworkers and the all the different leadership from the community and said that, hey, my son is in the community and he's unsafe. Like, I need people to know that. No, I didn't go very far. I I tried to tell everybody because I didn't want other people to get hurt. The problem is all you can do is minimize. You can minimize the damage that is happening, but you can't eliminate it because it's not black and white. It's so gray. You can make the damage less. You can hurt less people, but you can't make all the damage go away. No matter how much you want to, you can't make it go away. And you have to make choices that you never thought you would make just to try to minimize the damage. I made decisions I never thought I would make. And I don't say that like I'm some perfect parent who never does stupid things as a parent, but I made decisions that I never thought I would make. One of them I hesitate to even talk about because my son has threatened me with it so many times. Um, he was living with our oldest daughter at the time, and things were going downhill tremendously at that point. And he had been vaping prior to going there. Didn't have access to a vape while he was there, was not in school, so he could not get a vape from anyone else. He was threatening to run away. I had found from other people that he was making plans to run away. We were going downhill very quickly, and we were trying to get some of the DHS interview stuff completed. We were trying to get him into a group home at that point. We were trying to wrap up his time at our daughter's house and get him moved and keep damage minimal at that point. And he was not doing well. And I bought a vape for him, which if you would have told me I would ever buy a vape for one of my children, I would have laughed at you because no, I wouldn't. But I did. He was 16. I bought him a vape. Why? Because I knew that would calm him down for a period of time. It arrived and it didn't even work. So he was real upset about that. But I was willing to do whatever it took to minimize the damage that was going to happen to other people because I knew if he had run away from there, he would have taken a girl with him that lived locally. That wouldn't have been good. Talking about that makes me feel sick. And for other people, like there's sixth graders at my daughter's school who have vapes. I'm sure they get them from their parents, and it's probably not that big of a deal. But for me, that was a really big deal. Um, something that I am very much against, and it really bothers me that that was something that I chose to do. But I needed him to stay where he was at for a few more days. There were times that he was sexually active with people and making decisions that I really, really struggled with as to where he was being sexually active and didn't feel like he was treating people very well based on where he was willing to do things at. And that's kind of a longer story for another day. But I made concessions into what I felt was right and wrong in order to change his behavior because it impacted other people, and I was so worried about other people. I talked to so many parents and so many school administrators and made posts in community Facebook groups and talk about things on social media that all impact my family to talk about them. And I do it because I have to minimize the risk. There was one day that I found awful text messages on his phone. I don't even remember why I had his phone. He was in a group home at that point, and I think I took his phone away, and what was on there was awful. It was awful. It was to an ex-girlfriend, and there were threats and name calling, and it was not good. And I took that phone in and had a risk assessment started or threat assessment started so that they could protect her. Because he wasn't doing great, but that wasn't my concern at that point, it was that girl. While he was inpatient, I met with his ex-girlfriend, talked to her because I knew he would try to reach out to her when he got out, and I needed her to be safe. I wanna protect my own child. I just wanna protect my own child, but that's not an option, and it makes me feel so sick inside to know that I can't protect my own child. If my son went to court for something right now and I was asked to testify against him, I would. There is no way that I would stand up for him at this point in time because I don't believe I don't believe the good part, and I feel like an awful parent for saying that. But when you've walked this path and seen what has happened over and over and over again, even if you try to gaslight yourself, which I've done so many times, I'm doing it right now. I have tried to convince myself on a daily basis that he's fine right now. Now that he is on his own, not under our roof, not under our authority, not with us, he's fine. He's probably doing fine. Why would I say anything negative about him? Because he's probably doing great on his own right now. That solves all of his problems because we're not a part of his life. I know that's not true. I know that's not true. He has struggled in every environment he has been in. He has struggled with his birth mom. He has struggled at school, in group homes, inpatient. He has struggled everywhere. At camp, he has struggled everywhere. Now is not any different than that, but my brain still wants to find the best, wants to protect him, wants to change the narrative because I'm his mom. I haven't spoken to him since his birthday. I sent him a happy birthday message. He replied back and said, "Thank you for everything you've done for me. I'll never forget you." We filed a protective order against him the next day on behalf of our daughter, and I have not spoken to him since then. It's been uh, 2.5 months now. Will I talk to him again? I don't know. Am I willing to? Probably. He's my son. I don't know if he sees me as his mom. I don't know if he sees us as his parents or if he's written us off completely. I have no idea. But I do know that if he called me tomorrow and said, "Mom, I need you," I would probably respond. My boundaries are a little better now, though. There's little that I would believe outside of things aren't great. I check the jail roster on a regular basis to see if he's there. I occasionally get social media suggestions for his new accounts that he's created and get a little hint of how things are going. Not great. Uh, I don't say this as like a negative. I say this as just the reality of I think parenting can be seen in just this black and white light where things look a certain way. You're supposed to do things a certain way. Like, if kids are being bad, just take their phone away. That solves it. Except it doesn't. That doesn't just solve it. Grounding them doesn't just solve it. Being consistent with your boundaries doesn't just solve it. A curfew doesn't just solve it. If that were the case, we would have solved all of our issues a long, long time ago. We're dealing with something very, very different than that. Something that I am terrified is going to end in more people being hurt. And I hate that I can't stop it. I hate that there is nothing I can do at this point to stop it. And I am recognizing that my struggle with not talking to him right now has less to do with missing him and wanting him in my life, and more to do with the fact that I don't know what he's doing. And I don't know who is currently at risk. So there's not anything I can do to protect people. And that bothers me. I want to protect other people. It's what I've done for a long time. And not being able to do it anymore is really hard. But that's where we are. That's the life we're currently living. And I don't like it. But it's gray. It's not black and white. It's very, very gray. And talking about it out loud is just part of minimizing the risk, I guess. It's the only thing I can do, so I keep doing it. We just talk about it. Keep the conversation going in hopes that we can minimize the risk. Because the louder I am, maybe the less likely it is that something else will happen. I don't know. Take care of you. I'll talk to you again soon. Thanks for being here, listening, feeling, and sitting with the hard stuff. If you've ever whispered a story like mine, I'd love to hear from you. You can leave me a message at mombehindthescenes.com because every story told gives someone else permission to share theirs. This is Things I Can't Say, the podcast for things you whisper, not post. Until next time, take care of yourself.